Hello and welcome to Conscious Calibration. I am your soul coach, Aveen. Today I'm talking about the current pulse of energies that we're feeling, and with Mercury going retrograde, you might be feeling that there's a pull towards the past. Now, I haven't personally been feeling reminiscent of the past, but I have to share that I've had many visitors in the non-physical, people who've passed over, transitioned from my childhood, coming to visit me at 4 a.m. in the morning, and then also people contacting me who I knew from childhood from many, many years ago as well. So that's been really interesting. And what I'm feeling as well in the current state of affairs with regards to what's going on in the planetary cosmic quantum field as well, and I see this with clients, is that there is this real push to go into your past, and any undealt with emotions, anything that's lingering has to be looked at and has to be felt. And awareness, that's really what I'm feeling, that there has to be awareness brought into any shadows in the aura, any shadows in the deeper subconscious. So a few nights ago I had a very surprise visit from a soul of a young boy that I remember from childhood, and he had this condition where he was in a wheelchair, and muscular dystrophy, if I remember correctly, is the condition he had. So initially he had lots of upper body, he could use his arms, and he was in the wheelchair, but as the time passed he deteriorated rapidly, and eventually his head had to be propped up. And I remember as a child, because he was friends with my brothers, my older brothers. I was the youngest. I have two older brothers. And he was really good friends with my two older brothers. And I remember watching his deterioration and being quite upset about that, and feeling very emotional about the quality of his life, and, you know, not understanding why his soul came into such a restricted physical body. However, I did love to see that my brothers and their friends, the gang of boys, treated him no differently. They absolutely, he was just one of the lads, and they all would sit on the motorized wheelchair and push it along, and sometimes he would fall out and they just laugh and throw him back in, and it was all very rough and tumble, as young boys are. You know, there was no political correctness of, you know, how do we treat him or anything like that. It was just, it was natural, it was organic, they were young boys starting off their young boyish lives and living accordingly, which was brilliant. I remember as well when they'd go on trips to weekends away and things, as they got older into their mid to later teens, he was brought along as well. And they took care of him, and they did all the necessary things, which for young lads would have been, you know, quite challenging, because some of those things were outside the scope of some people's comfort zone. So I always admired that. And he came to me the other night and he talked about his life, and he explained to me that there was a reason why his soul took on that body, and that it brought many, many benefits of expansion and spiritual awareness and understanding to the people that he interacted with. And they said, he spoke directly about my brothers and the other lads, and how his death, because he did, I don't know, I was very young, I can't remember how old he was when he died, but I remember the funeral. I didn't go, I was too young, but I remember my brothers went, and I remember some of the lads actually carried his coffin, and I remember my mother being very upset about his death, and the funeral and saying it was a highly emotional affair. And actually, as I'm talking about this, I'm starting to feel some of that emotion, even though I didn't have any direct contact with this guy, with Rob. That was his name. But Rob came to me unexpectedly, as I said, very late at night, and explained that his passing so young, his transition, was a catapult for my brothers and for the lads who he was interacting with, that strong band of boy friendship that they had. And it was a catapult so that they wouldn't take life for granted, so that they would get out there and that they would, you know, do all the things that they were able to do, that they had the gift to do, because they had this wonderful miracle of a physical body that contained their soul and contained their consciousness, and they could expand in any direction that they wanted. They could go forth in any direction that they focused upon. And that is what happened, you know. Those lads all did really, really well. They all had having interesting, joyful, adventurous, expansive lives. My brothers travelled the world, you know. They lived abroad. One actually settled in Australia. They did wonderful things with their lives, and I really admire that. And it was such a surprise visit, and it was very much about death and this illusion of death and what we think death is from a human perspective, and this shock surprise when we actually experience it, that it's nothing like we think it is. And, you know, he talked to me about the importance of not taking life for granted and not taking our bodies for granted, you know. Like I said, he was very limited from a very young age. It got to a point where everything had to be propped up. His neck, his arms, you know, he barely had, I remember his hands looked very limp. He barely had the use of his hands to actually press the motorised wheelchair. I do remember, and he showed me flashbacks from that time, because this is a very, very distant memory. Like, I'm talking a long time ago. I do remember he couldn't ring the doorbell, so he would stand outside the house and he would call my brother's name. He would call and call, and I would open the window and say, "Hi Rob, I'll get my brothers for you," and I would go and tell my brothers that, you know, Robert was at the door, and they would go down to him. I do remember his death having a profound impact on my brothers, on all of us, you know. And again, I didn't know him personally. This was just from the outside looking in. But I remember one of my brothers wrote a beautiful poem, and I think it's still hanging somewhere. My mum actually, we put it in a frame, and it was a poem that not just expressed the grief of losing a really good friend. I'm just feeling him now. I can just feel that emotion as well. But also the questions. It opened up the Pandora's box, you know. And death does this. It opens up all these questions about life and what's it all about and why are we here and why, you know, why did that person come for such a short time? And he'd such an impact. Robert was only here a few years in this incarnation, but boy did he have an impact. And I always knew that. I used to marvel at him as a little girl. I felt such a strong energy off him. I admired him. He was out living his best life. He didn't let his restrictions hold him back. And I think many of us can't imagine having those kind of restrictions. We think that our fears and our silly little insecurities hold us back. But like Robert, you have to be brave and you have to be courageous in life, and you have to be willing to blast through your fears, because we don't have forever in this incarnation. We have forever as consciousness, yes, we are eternal beings, absolutely. But you only get this time to be you, to be the person you are now in this body, seeing things the way you're seeing them, having the background that you had, whether it's good, bad, indifferent. It has carved you into this beautiful present creation. And I want you to feel inspired by Robert. Because I was inspired, you know, even from a very young age and not fully understanding his condition or whatever, but I do remember the impact. I remember his vibration. I remember the energy from that lifetime. Now, when he came to me now, he was so different. I had to ask, who is this? When he first showed up. He said, it's Rob. It's Robert. And I said, I don't know any Robert. And then he gave me the timescape, the flashback so that I could, and I said, oh my God. And it was such a, like I'm still processing it, you know. And I still have to reach out and contact my brothers. I might share this video with them because they will be delighted to know. I know they had such a gra, as we say in Ireland, such a love for the lad. He was an inspiration, and I really can see, and he explained to me on much deeper levels than I'm giving him credit for right now, the impact of his life in that body, in that experience, in what as a human we would say is a limited physical experience, but for him there was so much other gifts that he brought with his vibration, with his energy, with his personality, with what he extracted from the boys that he was interacting with, from the people that he interacted with. And one of the strongest messages, there was many others, but some of those are more personal for my brothers, but the one that I can share with you is that life is not to be taken for granted. You must be appreciative and thankful and grateful for this gift of life because you wanted this. Yes, you did. You may not think you did, but you did. And there were so many times in my life when I was suffering in pain and I thought, who would want this? Can I just, like, this roundabout thing that I'm on, this merry-go-round called life, can I jump off, please? But the angels always brought me back to the truth that you volunteered to be here. You wanted to, especially to be part of this time, this global time, right? I won't even say the words because apparently YouTube there's some algorithms affected by the words or something. I don't even care, but you know, this is a global awakening. It is a global challenge for sure. But who doesn't love a challenge? I mean, challenge is what stretches us and helps us grow and helps us be better people. And it also creates new ways, you know, challenge. You know, I love that old proverb, necessity is the mother of invention. I need to take a sip of water. I didn't expect to get emotional there. But necessity is the mother of invention. So the necessity now, the fact that we've had all of our creature comforts, our conveniences pulled away, we're actually finding new ways of using our resources and being creative and creating income and attracting abundance and connecting and reaching out to people from the past. So don't be surprised if, as we move through June, July, there is a resurgence of people from your past reaching out to you. Another example is I got a lovely message from, again, from that same era, interestingly enough. It was an old friend who I used to pal with. And wow, I haven't seen that girl in a long time. But getting that message actually brought back a memory that I'd completely forgotten about. So it's a little story. Maybe I'll share that with you if you're interested. yeah, I might do that in the next video. I'll share that story because I feel like people don't come back from other timelines into the present timelines for no reason. Think about that. If somebody's showing up in this timeline that was from a different timeline, from a different world practically, because when I got this message from this girl who's alive, by the way, the other message was from someone who'd passed over. This was someone who this morning I got a message, an email from. She said she's been following me for years, so if you're watching, hello, you know who you are. It was lovely to get your message, and it actually meant a lot to me because I have lovely fond memories of you. If you're watching, I'm sure you are. But yeah, there's a reason that we're being asked to revisit the frequencies, the emotions, the memories of that timeline. So that's why we, like, if memories were of no good to us, if recollection was of no good to us, it wouldn't be, our consciousness wouldn't use it. We would just have an experience and it would be gone. It would be over. And I remember watching Bashar one time actually, and it fascinated me. He talked about the different extraterrestrial species. And apparently there is a species of ETs that when they're facing you and interacting with you, they are fully present and they know what's going on. But the minute they turn their back, they actually completely forget what happened in that moment. So they don't have memory. So when they turn around, it's over, it's done, you're gone. You're no longer remembered, like there's no recollection happening. So that's really interesting. So there's a reason why us as humans, the hybrids that we are, that we've been given this ability to recollect and to remember and to recall. And also my mother, I rang her this morning and she said that she was chatting to her sister and they were talking a lot about the past and people, and you remember so-and-so and remember this, and there was all this lovely nostalgia and everything. Now, I do caution that it's not good to spend lots of time in the past. If you're dwelling on the past every day and you're not here in your present life, something's wrong. You know, depression can often do that. If you're too attached to what happened a long time ago and you feel that it's having a negative impact on your life, that's when things become a dysfunction. So we need to look at that. And you can book a session with me online and we can work through whatever's holding you, keeping you attached to that memory. But I'm talking about revisiting timelines when it's relevant to your expansion and it's relevant to you getting a lesson for now so that you can actually put that into a healthier place in your life, into a healthier mindset, so that can help you to make sense maybe of why you are the way you are now. So there's things in my childhood that I would have said and done that maybe it didn't make sense to me at the time or people around me. But because I'm living the life I'm doing now and, you know, I'm a soul coach and things like that, I understand, oh, that's why I was afraid of the dark for a long, long time. Like my family used to slag me and tease me about this all the time because I was actually afraid of the dark way up into, like, you know, maybe I was 11 and 12 and I was always saying, you know, will you leave the door open downstairs? Because I wanted to feel there was an escape route. Because when I went to bed and I relaxed my mind, all these energies opened. There was lots of visitors. There was a lot of activity. This was going on all through my childhood. So that's quite terrifying for a child. You know, I'm fine now with, you know, 4 a.m. I get a visitor from someone in spirit saying, hello, can we have a chat? Well used to it now. But understanding what I'm doing now helps me to make sense of that experience as a child, being afraid and feeling that I wanted to keep some connection to my physical life, to my physical world, and wanting that support because there was so much energetically going on when I turned off the lights and went to go to bed. I remember I wouldn't sleep for ages. I would often lie there and there would be lots of activity. And I remember writing a song about angels in the bedroom and the names I gave them, and my mother saying, where did you get these names? And I was like, well, that's their names. And I remember her being shocked and saying to me, well, that's actually the names of your great-grandparents. So this is what I'm saying about positive recollection. It can actually really help us put the pieces of the puzzle of who we are and what we're about and what our life is about right now together. So thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed my sharing here with you. Please like this video for more, and it helps me stay focused and encouraged. And the more likes, the more views, the more support I get, the more I know that there's a reason for me to actually do this work on YouTube. I mean, I always do my own work. I'm seeing my clients, I'm doing my work. But, you know, for me to take the time in my schedule to upload these videos, it helps to know that there is an interest for this content, because I want to be of value, I want to inspire, and I want to enlighten, and yeah, that's what I want to do. So much love to you. Take care.